Hey everybody, I just wanted to throw together a really quick video. I just got finished testing and doing proctoring for the ELA state exam for New York, and I've been looking at Facebook and I'm seeing a lot of parents, they're concerned, they're upset, they're talking about Common Core, they're talking about state exams, they're talking about their children's frustrations, and I just want to clear up a few misconceptions and provide some information for parents and even possibly educators. So in no specific order, I took some notes, and what I want to do is I just want to clear up 5 misconceptions that I think are going to be really useful for parents and for teachers. One of the biggest things that I keep seeing over and over on Facebook is that parents believe if their children do well on a state exam, that they're guaranteed a 4. It's not that easy. State exams do not necessarily have a pass score or a fail score. So, your student could do great on the test, but that doesn't guarantee them a certain percentile. The scores and the grades are actually determined after everyone in the group has taken their test. And then there's something that's called a cut score. I'll get into cut score a little bit later because this is coming up over and over. Another issue that I keep seeing that's coming up is opting out. Opt is short for option. There is no option whether or not you can take the test or not take the test. What ends up happening is if a parent doesn't want their student to take a state exam, it is written down as a test refusal. Now I know test refusal sounds really bad, but depending on the city, the school, that is not necessarily going to impact the child as much as parents may be concerned about. What ends up happening with the test refusal is at the end of the year in June, the student receives a packet depending on which exam you're opting out of, and the student gets an opportunity to have a portfolio put together, and they use that as a determination on whether or not the student should go to the next grade. So one way to look at it is that the child actually has a whole year's worth of material to give them the opportunity to go to the next grade as opposed to a test. Another point that keeps coming up is parents are complaining about the test being too hard. Earlier I mentioned about a cut score. There may be some benefits to a hard exam. Now I'm going to try to explain this as simply as possible, and if you feel like you need some more clarification, feel free to add comments, and I'm also going to put my Facebook information up, so you can feel free to email me or inbox me or whatever you feel comfortable with. Now, if we have a test that is really easy, let's just say for example, and everybody scores 80s and 90s, you would say, my child did pretty good, they scored an 80. Well, if 80 is the lowest score out of that group, your child becomes the lowest in the percentile of that group, and based on a cut score, your child may actually end up getting a 1 or a 2 on the exam. A cut score works like this. There's an arbitrary number which they call a raw score. It could be 600, 700, 800, it depends on the state's scoring system that they come up with for that year, and it changes annually. What they do is they look at the determination of students who score within certain brackets, and they find a number where they literally cut, and they say everybody who's above this score is a 4, everybody below this score is a 3, and so on and so forth. So there's no real percentage other than how the students perform as a whole, because you can't have a state exam where 90% of the kids pass. You also can't have a state exam where 90% of the students fail. So earlier in the video, I talked about opting out. Remember, you don't have an option, so you're basically refusing to take the test. And a lot of times people or different organizations promote it as if there's no recourse. There's actually a technicality there. So federally, you have to meet AYP, that's adequate yearly progress as a school. If the school doesn't test 95% of its subgroups, and I'll break down subgroups in a second, then the school can actually be penalized with federal funding. So if you know about Title I and Title III, and your school relies upon that, your school could be on one of those lists that gets funding taken because you didn't meet AYP. There's an article that I'm going to attach the link to, and I'm going to put on my Facebook page, where 16 schools in Brooklyn actually got penalized and had money taken from them because their belief and their families' beliefs in the school that their students shouldn't be taking these state exams. I won't really get into the politics on whether you should take the state exams or not, but I think that parents should be educated so that they can make the right decision for their families. And that's the purpose of this video. It's just to give information that's public record. All the links that I'm going to give you come from the New York City Department of Education's website and other website links that you can use to verify what I'm saying and make your most informed decision. While I'm talking about this piece, there's also one other caveat. If your child sits for one day of this state exam and you feel like afterwards you want to take the child's name out of that pool, you cannot. If a child misses a piece of the exam and doesn't take the makeup, they will be scored as a 0. So if you're going to opt out, you have to do it in advance. Another misconception that I keep hearing or reading or seeing on Facebook is Common Core is terrible, and this Common Core and these Common Core tests. Let me be clear on what Common Core is. Common Core learning standards are just learning standards. They're a benchmark. Don't confuse the crazy questions you might see on your child's math homework that some company created to sell textbooks as Common Core. It may be Common Core aligned, but the difficulty, the complexity, the words that are used, or the examples and models that they use in those books are done because they are a packaged program. So what I don't want parents and or teachers to do is to confuse curriculum with Common Core learning standards. However, certain textbook companies make it where they're offering some new product and there's no such thing as new math. So the confusion really comes in because they're trying to push a product and people are blaming it on the standard. Personally, I don't see how you can argue giving students a bit more accountability as opposed to having students learn the way we learned, where we just had to memorize certain facts and we really didn't have an understanding of what we did. We just learned a bunch of shortcuts. If you disagree, I challenge you to ask yourself, well, how does multiplication really work? Or how does division really work? How does addition really work? You may not be able to answer that, but you can add numbers because you were only taught the shortcut. Common Core is just an idea that if a child went to school in Florida and they moved to New York for whatever reason, that if they're in 3rd grade, they should be learning the same thing. That's what the common thread really is. It's that everybody in every state in the union is learning the same thing at the same time. That's all Common Core is. The actual standards were a mixture of various states that were performing at the higher levels, New York being one of them, and they meshed them, and then they determined that these are the national standards. Hopefully you were able to digest the information that I provided. Whether you agree or disagree, everything I'm giving out is fact. Everything that I'm saying is backed up with references. However, if you have a difference of opinion or you want clarifications on a cut score, you would like more information on Common Core learning standards, you want to learn more about parents' rights, or anything related to education that I can answer for you or provide you with a resource for, at the end of the video, I'm going to put up my Facebook contact information. And remember, if you're on YouTube, all you have to do is write a comment below. I'll respond to your comment, and I'd like to open up a dialogue. I want parents to be informed, and I want communities that are underserved to be empowered. I'm speaking based on my knowledge in New York as a public school educator, but this information might impact somebody in Illinois or maybe even in California. So I want the information to get out because parents' rights is something that I really advocate for, and social justice is something that I really feel we have to take a stronger stand on. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed the video. Check out my other videos. Feel free to subscribe and like the video. You could even dislike the video because your opinion matters. Either way it goes, I want you guys to have a great night, and thanks for tuning in.